Well, you guys are good listeners. And I'm going to tell you why that's important to me, because as we pull candidates in, I have had recruiting firms before that it was literally just a dump truck dump. And it was everybody who had a pulse. You guys took the time on the front end to find out exactly what we were looking for, to filter for us on the front end so that only the cream that rose to the top made it to me.
All right, we are back here live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. It is Sandy Cerami coming at you with my man, my right-hand guy, Mr. Ron Marvo, the man with the devastating right hand, who is rocking his business bourbon and cigars swag.
You know it.
We're coming up on business bourbon and cigars very shortly, so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. We also have my buddy, the CEO of USAMotorJobs.com, Mr. Scott Trainer, the man with the $1 million accent, eh?
Always a pleasure to be here, eh?
Yeah, well, he escaped the the communist state of Canada up there with Justin Trudeau, and he is now relocated to the sunny state of Florida. So welcome, buddy. It's good to see you.
Land of the free. Land of the free. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, well, it's only the land of free if we continue to be the home of the brave. And we'll save that conversation for another day. But guys, we're exciting it because we've got a very hot topic to discuss here today. The three of us have talked around this issue for months now as we've started to work together with our strategic partnership, marrying SCA 365 and our recruiting platform with USAMotorJobs.com, the fastest growing place to find top talent in the marketplace, and the fastest growing spot for top talent to find a great place to call home for a professional career. And so if you haven't visited them and gotten your profile set up, if you're a technician, you're a salesperson, a manager, BDC rep, a porter, a valet, admin assistant, if you're in the accounting department, it doesn't make a difference. Get on USAMotorJobs.com and get your profile built out today for sure. And if you are an employer, you reach out to either us or USAMotorJobs.com and we'll gladly walk you through the process. But guys, finding technicians right now is a gigantic challenge. Ron is going to share with us a shit ton of statistics that are going to blow people's minds in terms of where we are right now and where we're going over the course of the next couple of years. Ron, one of the stats out of that national survey or poll that you had referenced before talked a bit about what the technician shortage is going to look like in a few years. Can you reference that stat?
Well, just for one example, out of all those stats, 84% of technicians actually say that they think high schools, we're talking about the younger generation coming up and having to fill this void of technicians. Actually, high schools discourage students from entering trades. So I think it's really falls on the responsibility of the dealers, dealer partners out there to make sure that the younger generations that could potentially become technicians are aware of the cultural benefits when joining a dealership, are aware of the growth opportunities that are out there at dealerships across the country. So, that's just one small piece of it, overall.
Yeah, no question about it. I think that, there's a tremendous opportunity for us to get the message out there. But, Scott, you and I have talked about it. Doing the hokey pokey, 1 foot in and 1 foot out with respect to recruiting campaigns is not the ideal way to go about recruiting top talent at any position, but especially with technicians. Being in the marketplace 24/7, 365 has tremendous value. Can you speak to that just a little bit from your perspective?
Yeah, definitely. And especially when it's coming down to technicians, unlike salespeople, they don't move around as often. So there's always going to be a reason that they're going to change. It's not happening every month or every couple months that a technician is actually going to be leaving. So to get the technicians, you have to always be there when they are ready, not when you are short a technician and now find yourself with an empty bay and then scrambling to then try fill it. It's very important to always be present, always be in the face of the candidates, always be promoting your dealership, your culture, and why a technician would like to come and work for your store.
Well, you touch upon two things I think that are critical. First and foremost is, being out there 24/7, 365 because of something that Ron and I refer to as high noon. We're always at high noon. As dealerships, we are always at high noon. We're always looking for top technicians and top talent to join our dealership. The question is, when are the prospective top techs at high noon themselves? And so that's the reason you've got to be out there 24/7, 365. If you're not there when they're in the marketplace, you miss the opportunity. And that's why doing the hokey pokey, where you're running 30, 60-day campaigns, sometimes just 2 weeks out there to try and find a technician because you're in desperation mode. A lot of times you're missing top talent that's available in the marketplace because they simply didn't hit high noon themselves. Ron, talk a little bit about what drives somebody to high noon. Like what kind of events in their career or in their life drive people to high noon?
Well, anything that happens personally, professionally, maybe they're relocating, maybe they're getting married, maybe their spouse is relocating rather, maybe they're having kids, maybe they're just not happy at the current shop. And with over half of all technicians out there watching videos of technicians in other shops, and also they're all talking to each other in your local markets, right? So they know, kind of have a feel for the dealerships around them. So if they feel that they're getting told by multiple different technicians that, hey, we don't do that here, the thing that you're having a problem with at your current shop, we don't do that here, and they're hearing that all over the place, they might actually uproot themselves. And the other thing too is, they also, again, going back to talking to each other, and the reason that they do hit high noon, 90% of technicians think cross training in the shop is important. And they're really 50% of that 90 is interested in management training, followed by parts, finance, and then advisory. So that's another reason that somebody might be at high noon in a technician role, is they don't feel that they're getting cross-trained, an opportunity for being promoted or growing within, or there's something personal happening in their life.
Yeah, I mean, I always look at it from two perspectives, Scott. I look at it from a personal perspective, as Ron referenced. It could be that they're moving, they've been relocated, they're getting married, they're buying a new house, they've got a kid going to college, they just had a baby. Something in their life gets them to kind of pick up their head for a moment, look around, and see what opportunities exist out there in the marketplace. And that's when we see them at high noon looking to make a move or make a career decision. And that's why it's so important to be out there on a consistent basis. On the professional side, look, we've got a lot of mergers and acquisitions happening in our business. And so when you've got a change in ownership, a change in managers, a overhaul or change in the culture, that's usually when we see technicians picking up their head, looking around and saying, are there any other opportunities out there? And to Ron's point, they want, a lot of them are looking for growth opportunity in a career path. They know that they can't spend their entire career in a bay on their hands and knees from time to time, doing a lot of the heavy lifting work that's required of technicians these days. And so they're looking for a career path that maybe 10 or 12 or 15 years down the road, they can evolve into something more and have a position where they get out of the bay and work on the service business instead of in the service business. Does that make sense,
Sure.
Scott?
Yeah, and definitely even the ones that are working in the garage most of the career, even when they're starting out as a store, they just came out of school and they're starting as a lube and tire tech, they'd much rather go find an employer that has a career path for them, that it's not just a one-time job where they're getting a job as a lube and tire tech. Once they graduate, that they're going to find another employer. They'd rather find a place to call home that will grow them from within. Then they'll go out to alignments. Then they'll grow all the way to master tech. And that's what they're looking for now. Aside from just the culture, which is very important, they want to have a career path. They want to feel like they belong and be valued.
Yeah, no question. Ron and I were talking about that over the course of the last couple of days in terms of what are the hallmarks of a great culture in the view of a technician, right? What do they look for? When we talk about culture, it's obviously career path opportunities and a chance to grow professionally, but they also look for dealerships that are committed to making sure that tooling and technology is a priority, right? Giving them the resources that they need to max out performance and production so that they can max out their own paycheck, but ultimately max out the profitability for the store. And we see technicians making decisions about where they're going to call home, from 7 to 5 or 9 to 5, whatever the case may be, based on, what level of commitment a dealership has to tooling, technology, and training. Is that something you're hearing as well, Scott?
Definitely. I've actually seen multiple stores that have a couple of parts departments even, so that everything is readily available because the shop is so large or split into two different buildings, that they do have the proper set of toolings. So
Right.
when they're interviewing the technician, they'll actually take them on a tour and show them and show how they built it out for the technicians to make their lives and their jobs a lot easier going forward.
No question. No question. Ron, you referenced something before when you were talking about technicians watching videos about other dealerships when they may not necessarily be in the market to make a move. However, they're looking around to see what other dealerships and other technicians are doing to max out performance and production, and what kind of commitment they've made to the facility, what types of processes that they're using to increase and improve production and performance. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, again, I just think that there's a culture amongst the technicians that they all feel they're, of course, in the same boat, right? So regardless if they're working at dealer X, Y, or Z, they want to know what's going on around them, and is the dealership I'm working at the best true fit for me? And I think the best way that dealerships can make technicians feel a bit better about their current shop is, one, like, just starting at the interview process, right? Like after you do an interview, if you're not physically showing them the shop, 85% of technicians feel as though that if they got a video of what the shop looked like, where things were, getting a little bit more of a detailed feeling of what the shop would feel like on a day-to-day basis would help them make a decision on whether or not that they would want to work for you in the first place. But once they're already there, like Scott said, do you make an investment in their tooling for them? Some technicians, get out of the trade school. They have the debt from being in the trade school, although it's less expensive than going to a 4-year college, which is a benefit to technicians. It still can be costly, the cost of tools alone. So I feel that as if they feel that they're getting told by their technician friends that, hey, I got a dealership that I work for that has invested in me in cross training, invested in me in tooling, invested in me in helping me get my certifications with the OEM, and they're not getting that at their current dealership, again, they talk with each other, and that's gonna cause some dissent maybe in the shop, right? Because now in the morning when everybody gets there, a lot of times all the technicians, as you guys know, are chatting with each other, right? And then
Not
the
my
funnier
shop.
thing about that, not in your shop, right? Not in my shop. That doesn't happen.
We come to
Yeah,
work.
but they chop it up, when they first get there. And then the problem, I think, really lies is if they're complaining and they don't feel that they can go and talk to the manager about it because they feel nobody listens to them. That's when I feel like the ear that they have open to the technicians at the other dealerships is really, really, really open and wide for them to receive information and possibly make a move out of your dealership.
Yeah.
So just from a retention standpoint.
Which I find unfortunate, Ron, because often enough, it's once they start being unhappy that only then when they're about to leave that they're going to speak up with their service manager.
Right.
Exactly.
And, hey, I got offered XYZ at the other store. What's the service manager? He's not going to lose the tech. I'll match it. But how much has being unhappy cost that store productivity for who knows how long that tech has been happy? If he hasn't been happy for a year, he hasn't been his maximum productivity for that year because he's feeling underappreciated.
Yeah.
So I really feel like there should be the one-on-ones and the sit-downs with them and really just hashing out, how do you feel? Do you have any suggestions? What are you feeling? Is there any ways we can improve something? That's very important to have that communication with the technicians, because everybody turns a blind eye. Like, I know we just laughed about it. Everybody thinks it's not happening at their shop. It is. It's happening at the shop. It's happening with the friends. It's happening on social media. I know you and I were in a bunch of different technician groups as well. We've done different polls with different technicians, and we see everything that's happening behind. And they're all discussing it. Everything's out in the open now, and they're all very transparent with what's happening at their store.
And the other part to that, Scott, is if your shop is doing a good job, and being able to cater to your technicians, 75% of your technicians are going to refer other techs to work for your shop.
Right.
they're gonna become the magnet to recruiting other techs as well. If you're not 24/7, 365 recruiting already, as you should be.
Oh, especially nowadays in the industry where most techs, we could admit, are not as happy as they should be. When you
No
do
question.
get those techs that are very happy and they're going to promote it, they spotlight, they shine out from everybody else. Everybody's like, wow, where's your shop? I need to come. We've seen it before. Where's your shop located? Are you guys hiring? And it doesn't take much. It takes a happy technician and
Yep.
they're years.
You know,
And the top-
we
go
talk
ahead,
about culture a whole lot. Our buddy Dan Barris over at Traction. By the way, if you dealers, GMs, and service and FOD managers are not familiar with Traction, you need to go to traction.com, TRAXTION.com. Dan Barris, the COO over at Traction, says work culture is so crucial. We spend half our life at work. Culture is everything. You may like what you do, but if you don't like where you're doing your work, it's not the right fit. And he's on the money. Let's be fair. There are challenges for dealers and GMs and FODs and service managers that have to be acknowledged because they're real.
Yes.
You have a lot of pressure from the manufacturer on fix it right the first time. We've seen an incredible increase in terms of the level of technology that technicians are dealing with right now. You have a lot of pressure from the consumer right now. We've got supply chain disruptions. We've got parts availability issues. I mean, there's a whole host of things that cause, challenges for each and every dealership that's out there. It's a matter of whether you want to be a victim or a champion at the end of the day, in my opinion. And so, when we talk about these things that dealerships can and should be doing, we've got to think about it in this respect. If you take a look at the most successful sports teams, and I know it's just a little bit different, but not really different. The players that are on the field are the ones that are compensated at a super high level, right? The ones that are your starters, the ones that are your real big contributors, are the ones that are compensated and also given all of the soft benefits on top of it. And when you create a winning culture in your organization and create an opportunity for those folks to really thrive without ultimately giving the house away, if you will. To Ron's point before, you have incredible referral attraction going on from your current team of technicians. The other thing I tell you is understanding the value of a technician. Very often, Ron will have conversations with GMs or FODs and service managers and dealers in some instances where, they're not 100% aware of what the value of a technician really is. If you take a technician that's producing at 40 hours a week on average with an effective labor rate of $150 an hour, you're talking about a tech that's going to produce roughly $330,000 in gross profit annualized, working a 50-week work schedule. It's way too important a production position to not pay that kind of attention to it and give it all of the hard and soft attention that it needs. Does that make sense?
Oh, completely.
Yeah, no question, Sandy. And the other thing that we're giving the attention, right? Like, the top reasons that a technician is going to leave your shop, if we're talking about leaving, we're moving away from actually acquiring them, is not just pay, but actually one of the top reasons is a lack of respect. And I think that if we want to improve the way the industry, the way the industry is in that regard, everyone has to be involved and work together as a team. And as we continue to see the rapid growth that we do across the automotive industry, I think, especially over the last several years when those signs are slowing down, I think we need to take advantage of showing that level of respect and care and that improvement to investing the time in your people in order to make sure that we attract the younger generations and they understand that there is a culture here for growth opportunity and to be happy. And it's not just only revolving around the pay aspect of it.
Right. Yeah, it is not just pay. It's everything, right? It's the cleanliness of your shop. It's the organization of your essential tools. It's the availability of parts. It's the relationship between your parts department and your service department. It's the relationship between advisors and technicians. Let's talk a little bit about the fact that technicians are being asked to do things differently and do more today as we introduce video recommendations into the process. we're asking them to take a piece of the actual recommendation process and put it through their phone to connect with service clients. And so, the skills that are going to be necessary moving forward are going to change a bit. And it may require an investment, not just in terms of additional compensation, but certainly in the form of additional training, because you've got to change the mindset and the approach of these technicians, especially the younger ones that just don't have the seasoning. They're going to have a long runway to work with in order to develop these skills. And it's got to be tougher for the more seasoned technician to, point that camera from their phone at themselves and at the car. It can be a very uncomfortable experience for a lot of them. So we're seeing significant changes in terms of how we deliver service to our clients coming through the service drive these days.
But with a happy culture and a great team that's been happy for a while, they're always more open to change and they're open to technology. If you have a team that hasn't been happy or disgruntled about different reasons that aren't being addressed, when you bring out something new and ask them to do something new, an extra step now that wasn't done before, it's definitely not going to be as well accepted. Whereas if you had a great company culture, it would. And I know, Sani, you were mentioning it's not just about pay, but pay is a huge thing I'm seeing right now in the industry. Yes, culture is extremely important. Yes, quality of life is extremely important. However, pay is something that really needs to be addressed in the industry. And I believe that we've turned a blind eye, what the industry has for a while, technicians, and we've taken it for granted what they're doing. We all know nowadays there's less of the new generation going into trades. And now let's say they don't want to go into university. So now somebody is open to go into trades. They're not necessarily have a passion for cars. They're just saying, I'm going to go into trades. They're going to look at welders. They're going to look at electricians. They're going to look at plumbers. They're going to look at HVAC, and they're going to look at automotive technicians. Which one in the market right now pays the least and has the slowest growth of a career? It's automotive. So we really need to adjust A, the entry level pay, and B, promote the career possibilities and really get them on that fast track to get advanced. You can start as an electrician and then be running your own business within a year. Technicians, we still see them being underpaid to try to be lube and tire techs. And those ones that are doing it's normally because they have a passion for vehicles. But unless we really address this issue, it's not going to fix itself. And
I wouldn't disagree, Scott, at all. I mean, I understand the compensation issue as it relates to the perspective of the dealership versus the technician's perspective. And a lot of times what we get is myopically focused on two things. I don't want to overpay a technician because I have to overpay everybody. And I have to be honest with you, if you're going to overpay anybody in the dealership, it's probably the technician that's worth overpaying, right? If I had to pick one position in the entire dealership, with the exception of maybe the GM and the dealer principal, the one I want to overpay is the technician. And I had a conversation with Tom Rustino. Tommy runs service operations for DePolo Auto Group up in Albany, New York. And Tom and I talked yesterday about the importance of the lower end technicians being lifted up. If you can raise the floor for your lower end technicians, believe me when I tell you, you're going to see a dramatic transformation in terms of the production and the performance of your dealership service operations almost overnight. A lot of times I still see the old school mentality. I'm going to pay a young kid $13, $14 an hour, and he's going to earn the opportunity to learn while he's earning. And that's, part of his compensation plan. And in today's day and age, $13, $14 an hour just isn't going to cut it. Tommy talked about the fact that, just an alignment technician that he has in his operation that is busy all day, every day. It's his number one most profitable technician in the entire operation. And he's paying him over $20 an hour right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
to your point, Sandy. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying,
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Take a look at the lower end technicians right now and figure out a way to get them to the point where you can grow them. But you have to give them a little bit better than just a get by minimum in order to do it.
Oh, yeah. And just wanted to say that, I remember in one of the shops that I had worked at that the technicians all had a group Snapchat together, and they were making the joke about how Dunkin' Donuts across the street was $22 an hour.
Sure.
And they're like, we don't even make that sometimes. And they see what's happening out in the marketplace. That's why I think that you definitely have to Scott's point and your point, you definitely have to make sure the compensation is right, the benefits are right, in combination with the development opportunities, in combination with the better work
There
environment.
you go.
And
Yeah.
now
You
all of a
just made
sudden you have a, yeah, you have a
made $1
recipe.
million point, buddy. You made $1 million point because you tied together what Scott was referencing before, and that is it is compensation for sure, but you have to marry that with the opportunity for them to have a career arc that gives them a chance to grow long term, right? Now they may throw the $22 argument at Dunkin' Donuts in your face, but what's the career path truly in a Dunkin' Donuts?
Sure.
And so you have to make sure that they're not looking at that as a fair comparison. You have to make sure they understand ultimately, and then ultimately deliver the career path opportunities where they can see themselves maybe evolving into a service advisor and becoming a service manager at some point in time. You may have some technicians out there that actually want to own their own dealership. Taking the time to ask them what's important to them is critical. We had a conversation, the three of us, in 2 different conversations, but we talked about the fact that there's not enough conversations being had with these young technicians today. We need to find out exactly what's on their mind and talk to them like in a real way, have a real conversation with them.
Yeah.
Scott, anything to add to that?
At the same time as well, what we're experiencing, and Sandy, you're seeing it every day as well, is that these stores are looking for technicians, yet at the same time, they're not differentiating themselves from others. If a technician has no reason to leave and every store is offering the same pay plan and not promoting their culture, not promoting what makes them different, you can't expect a technician to just leave where they're at to go for something, even if it's $1 more. It's not what's going to really captivate them. Technicians are a different breed of people. Salespeople are easy to get to jump. Salespeople, there's a camaraderie with their sales team, but they're not family. Technicians actually become
Yes, they are. That's a fact.
They're close with each other at work. They do barbecues together. They go camping together. Their wives are friends together. So really, to get a technician to leave where they're at and then go to another store, there needs to be something captivating that really makes a differentiating factor.
Yep, no question about it. The other thing I'd say is, as this business is continuing to evolve right now, and I don't know what the future holds. I have a few opinions. I can tell you that based on experience in terms of where I think this business is going. But the one thing I can say that is almost 100% unanimous across the board with everybody I speak to is that service and parts is going to become a bigger and bigger piece of your profitability equation in a dealership over the next 3 to 5 years. And so not taking the time to invest in making certain that you are continually out there looking for top talent in the form of quality technicians and quality young technicians graduating the trade schools in your market, or not, maybe even not in your market, is important. And Scott, you and I are talking to one of the trade schools, national trade schools right now in 2 different conversations, but we're hearing the same thing. They're struggling right now to make sure that they can get the kind of enrollments that they're looking for. And it's a matter of us telling a better story and providing a better opportunity for them.
Oh, definitely. And not the one that we're speaking of, Sandy, nationally. A small independent that I was speaking to in Florida, they had 7 technicians enroll for this fall semester. That should be a class of 25 to 30. So,
yeah, well, it's amazing. Mike Rowe, who is, I think, the foremost authority on the old dirty jobs deal, is the guy who I'd be paying attention to right now. He talks about the fact that there's far better opportunity long term for folks that know how to work with their hands, that have a trade. And you're not just in competition with the other dealerships or service centers in the market. What we're all competing with are the electrician opportunities, the HVAC opportunities. There's any number of different trades out there that we're competing with for these young folks to get their attention. And so when we stop looking at just the automotive business and take a bigger picture perspective in terms of what they can do and what they can get outside of automotive, we've got to take a look at maybe adjusting our expectations in terms of labor gross retention and what we were paying our technicians on a flat rate hour basis and the kind of soft benefits and career opportunities that we're providing for them long term.
You just nailed it on the head there, Sandy, the soft benefits, because again, who's teaching them how to update and write a professional resume? Who's teaching them how to interview properly and ask the right questions so that way they do actually go on an interview and have success in finding out what's most important to them while they're on the interview? You know, a lot of the soft skills I feel like are missed on. And Michael Rapo over here had said,
My man. Yep.
was needed is defined training program at the dealer with compensation to the training the tech. You know, I think that's a great idea, Mike. You know, a lot of the technicians out there that are going through the school systems, if also dealers could, you know, work with instructors at the school systems on the curriculum, speak to the actual classes, give the shop tours to people in schools, right? And kind of set the expectation very early on.
Yeah, well, we do work with several post-secondary trade schools, and there's even some with high schools that have the shop class. However, this is not a feat that I could take on or Sandy could take on by ourselves. I know we're out there grinding, there, meeting with all the schools as much as we can, but I really feel like the dealerships need to be involved in their communities to really attract that interest, to be part of the community events, to be out there.
Yeah.
So that way the youth is seeing it. And wow, this can be, you know, it's not just a place people buy cars. This is a place that I can build a career.
You know, Scott, you raise a great point, and it's something that we tell our clients all the time. You know, you're keeping your stories, your success stories, a secret in your dealership, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a technician story, but it can be, because those can be powerful influences on people's decision to leave one job for another. Right. I was at an event for one of the national automotive trade schools about 3 months ago. At one of the top performing dealerships in the country. This is a top, like literally a top 10 Honda store in the country, maybe top 3 in the country. Maybe that narrows it down for some people. But anyhow, at their event, they were hosting for this trade school. One of the things that was critically important for me to figure out was what was going to get the attention of the potential enrollees for the trade school, because that's where I want to start to think about, like, how do we get there and start to influence and impact their decision making at that level. And one of the things that blew me away was, very intelligently, and I'm just gonna say who it was, because I think it's awesome. It was Paramus Honda, which is the #1 Lithia store in the country. The service director over there is Bruce Laga. He's an awesome guy. He's really committed to the success of his people. He's a unique guy in that respect. He's deeply committed to seeing young people succeed in this business. And what he did was he asked 3 of his technicians to come in and speak to the 7 candidates that were in the room. And they each told a different story about how they started their career and why they were with the dealership long term. And the stories ranged from a technician that came out of that specific trade school and started out at 16 years of age working with the dealership, and how he was able to buy a house at the age of 21 because of the earning opportunity that he had and the career opportunity he had at the dealership. Another guy talked about the fact that he was his own shop owner for 13 years. And his brother, who was a service advisor at the store, was telling him for years and years, you got to come over and take a look at it. They couldn't get the guy over to the shop to even take a look. So they went to him, okay, and had a conversation with him. And Bruce was able to convince him to come look at the dealership. And the guy was so blown away by the facility and by the stories that he heard from other technicians that he ended up closing up a shop and going to work with the dealership, and ended up becoming a foreman at the store as well. Yeah. So, you know, sharing those success stories, it doesn't have to be live and in person. I always recommend dealerships to just put some social media stuff together. Put it on your page. Tell the stories how people started in one position and elevated and evolved themselves in their career to an even bigger opportunity within the dealership or within the dealer group. Why do we keep those stories such a secret is a mystery to me. Make sense?
Definitely. I mean, the sales is great at doing it. If you look at any sales department at any dealership, you see them, and the salespeople are great at telling their stories. How often, you know, do we see, and Ron, you see it all the time, where we're in the same groups, where the person's like, hey, I was working at McDonald's, or I didn't have anything. And now they're showing pictures of their brand new C8s, their houses they're buying, and how they put themselves up to managers in that. We see this on the sales side. Why is the service side not?
Well, also to that point, in that national survey that we quoted earlier, 76% of technicians do not think their specific shop does enough to help schools attract more students into the technician program. So even at the school level and the actual shop level, of putting out some social media content of why work here, you know, culturally, you know, a success story of somebody everybody, as we know, loves the hero's journey. I reference this a lot because, like, we look at the movies that are out in the marketplace right now and things of that nature, and from any time, even before now. And whenever you see a hero's journey or the underdog or anything like that,
Yep.
we all buy into it. And we want to see people win at the end of the day. And I think that we need to know what is most important to the technicians right now that helps them win, helps them, as Sandy and I always talk about, achieve their best end result and make the best possible decisions for them. And how do we do that?
Yeah, Sandy, I think we can loop this in as well to what we were saying at the beginning of the conversation, was just always having this out there is the same as recruiting 24/7, 365, and always being in the face of candidates and being present. So you're always putting out the success stories. You're not just putting out the job postings. You're always putting this out, always putting out the message. And that's truly what embodies the whole constantly recruiting 24/7, 365 is the job posts, the success stories, and advertising.
Yeah.
Store.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Ron and I talk about it ad infinitum, my man. We reference this when we speak with our clients when we're managing campaigns for them and driving candidates to them. The ability to tell the story effectively and consistently is a challenge, and so we work very closely with them to make sure that that gets done.
Yeah. And I just want to read this comment here from Sandy. Hey, Sandy, how you doing?
What's up, Sandy Z?
Dealers also might want to think about discovering what current employees really want and what Gen Z wants, and then creating a value proposition that satisfies those wants. Sandy, you're 100% on the money, and to that point, also, so many younger folks out there see social media stars, right? The influencers and the entrepreneurship that's available, like the self-made people. And they kind of say to themselves, well, I want that, right? So when they're looking at potential opportunities to get into the marketplace, if they feel that they can't get that within your shop, they might not think about getting into being a technician at all. But if there's a technician out there that says, hey, I want to own my own shop one day, right? A lot of them are like that. Like I take the window tinting world, for example. My brother-in-law owns a tint shop, and he constantly talks about, Ron, it's so hard to find people because what happens is I train them, and then they want to go and open their own shop.
Right.
Well, if you give them the tools within the dealership, they might not want to open their own shop anymore if they really, really love where they work. So that's another thing from the retention standpoint, and to what Sandy's and just said about value props to what they really want.
And Ron, putting both of those together, I don't think it's just as much as they all want to. Sorry, me and Sandy. Not as much as they want to be self-made. It's that they want to feel involved in something. So they don't want the new generation. It's not, I need to own my own company or I need to, be an influencer. But they want to feel a part of something. So when they're looking at a store, they want to be involved. They want to have a team. They want to have a family. They don't want to just be an employee, which is too often what we're seeing happen is that people are becoming numbers on a spreadsheet. They really want to feel like they're part of something bigger. And they don't want to live to work. They want to be able to have a quality of life. They want to know that, yes, they're going in, they're doing their work, but they're loving what they're doing. But they also get to go to their kids' baseball game. They also aren't missing barbecues. They have quality time and being able really to work to live. The new generation is about experiences as well. So we're starting to see a lot of new dealerships, a lot of dealerships adapting to the new ways of thinking. We're seeing 4-day work weeks. We're seeing different hours, different scheduling, different pay plans to allow people to have a work-life balance so that they do come and feel happy. They do what they got to do, and they get to live their life as well.
Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate for just a second because I do believe strongly in making certain that you do fulfill your end of that bargain as a dealer, as an employer, and as a manager. But I'm going to speak to the technicians that are out there right now and also tell them that, listen, folks, you have to do your 100% of the bargain as well, which means you've got to be willing to make the commitment, which means you show up on time, ready to work when the clock says it's time to go to work. You show up on the days that you're supposed to show up on, because we're kind of glossing over the challenges that it takes to run a shop where you have people that don't necessarily have the level of commitment that you require. And that speaks to culture as well. If you have a culture that recognizes and values a level of commitment that's symbiotic, that comes from both directions, then
Sure.
you start to see the magic happen. And holding people accountable is critically important. I'm all for, catering to the different needs, wants, and desires from a generational, from a gender perspective, from a where somebody is in their life currently. I
Sure.
totally get that. But the flip side to that is, for each one of you techs or anybody that's out there in the employee role, you have an obligation to the company that you're working for to deliver your 100% as well. And I think it's important that we know that, or note that, because I've sat on both sides of the equation as a
Sure.
dealer and working for dealers over the course of the last 12 years or so as a strategic partner. You've got to be willing to make the commitment, and you have to be willing to accept accountability. And if you're not, it'll be short-lived for everybody.
Yeah, Sandy, you're spot on. I think that happens across the younger generations as a whole. Like, the work ethic piece definitely at times is missing. So if you're not holding up your end of the bargain, if I make my shop the best potential shop that you could ever work at in the entire country, but you come in and you don't hold yourself accountable,
Bye-bye. See ya.
Unfortunately, that's just the way it's going to go. Scott, you were going to say something too.
No, but a shop that is offering all that to their candidates, the work-life balance, the compensation, they're able to demand a much higher level of candidate as well, where it's almost exclusive. It's a privilege to work for them. And then it goes, Sandy, exactly what you're saying, it goes both ways.
Got to.
That marriage, and they both know what they're expected. But when a shop's willing to offer what others aren't, they're allowed to expect much more from the candidates as well.
Yeah, Scott, to that point, I'm going to say this to you. A lot of times what I see is when shop managers or dealerships are not holding their teams accountable, it's because a lot of times they don't feel as though they've earned it. Okay. And so there's the flip side to the reciprocal accountability. Create the kind of environment, the culture, commitment to technology, tooling, and facility that gives you the confidence and the right to demand the very best from your people. And if everybody keeps up their end of the bargain, at the end of the day, you have high production, high performance, and high profitability as a result of it. Sean Reyes, my buddy over there, and he works with Traction as well. He says, my son, 22 years old, was contemplating tech school, but he said that he was worried about current skill sets being outdated 10 years from now with the EVs and AVs. I think the OEMs have to speak more loudly about their investment in local talent. The direct-to-consumer model doesn't address technicians at a local level. Man, Sean, you said a mouthful there, buddy. I have to say this to you. I have very definitive opinions on this, as Ron and Scott both know. I really believe that EVs are the greatest red herring that we'll ever see in this business. I believe that they will be a part of this business for sure, long term. To say otherwise would be foolish. But to think that they are going to be 100% of the focus of our business anytime before the next half century expires, you're nuts. Okay. The math just isn't there. The infrastructure isn't there. And the real true commitment from everybody involved is not there yet. So in my humble opinion, we're 50 to 60 years away from EVs being a 100%, potentially 100% population of vehicles on US roads. It's just not going to happen that way. Okay. Yeah. The other thing I would say to Sean's point is that, Sean, I would confidently say to your son, you can with great confidence take on an opportunity in parts and service in the retail automotive space for the next 15 to 20 years, because when you do the math, you've got 288 million cars approximately on the roads in the United States right now. Those are passenger vehicles. And if we're selling, let's just say 14 million cars on average per year, and if you took that over the course of a 20 some odd year period of time, that's about where you'd be, 14, 15 million cars roughly, maybe a tick higher. You're still talking about, to replace the entire car park, 30 to 40 years. Okay. And even then, you're still not going to replace them all. There's still going to be, those internal combustible engines on the market. And so the skill set will evolve, but a lot more slowly than people are saying. That everybody's running around with their hair lit on fire, like they stuck their finger in the socket regarding EVs. And I just don't think that it's the big deal that everybody is making it right now. There are political reasons why. There are also reasons that relate to the dealer distribution model that I think impact the whole EV red herring, and also the impact on the CAFE requirements. You're moving the culprit from the tailpipe to the production facility for electricity, which, by the way, regardless of what the maniacs with the Green New Deal will tell you, is still going to be produced by fossil fuels. My rant is over. Jump in.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
How do we switch that to a positive a bit too at the same time?
Go ahead.
Not that I'm not disagreeing with what you say. I'm just saying
Well, if you disagree, I'm just going to boot you off the screen.
You're done, dude. Get out of here. Scram. We don't deal with people who disagree, Scott.
Go ahead. Play devil's advocate. I love it. Go.
I'm not. No, it's a change of topic. Just pushing it off.
Sure.
That yes, the EVs are here. There's going to be EVs. They're not going to go away.
Correct.
I agree with you, Sandy, that the internal combustion is still going to be the major. There's still going to be that for career for the technicians coming. There's not a worry for that. But yes, people are talking about EVs. Yes, they're out there. Why are we not marketing more to the young generation that would be interested to them?
Absolutely.
There is that market.
Oh, man.
So no, he's not going to replace, but have we really started concentrating and trying to sell it to the kids? Hey, you may have not liked, getting your hands on greasy and oil, but you like tech. You fly your drone.
Well, yeah.
Why don't you come work on vehicles? They're computers. Absolutely. There are a lot more computers in tech than there were 10 years ago.
To that point, I was just sitting here thinking, like, if I was a car guy or gal right now, which I am, but I'm saying that if I was the younger generation version of me that grew up with the current population of cars that are out there, as they've seen the EV shift happen and continue to do so, what would get me excited? And I was kind of thinking about, well, the technology in the car, the driver assistance packages, level 5 self-driving automatic, autonomous vehicles would be exciting to me. So I would want to get into the technician space as a means to getting into the software and the coding aspect element potentially of the vehicles themselves. They go on their own separate lift. They don't go on a regular ice lift. I want to know how everything ticks. I want to know that there's a cooling and heating system in the battery. And if there's 36 cells in a battery, if one goes bad, what happens? How do we replace it? Things of all those kinds of things would now be the exciting thing. Not that, I'm replacing turbo filters on a twin turbo V8, Audi. Why do the filters go bad and things like that? Because maybe that's not as relevant. And then to Sean's point, the OEMs have to speak more loudly about their investment in local talent. I think that the OEM collaboration with the dealership, if they're going to be a lot of them force feeding the EV push. And trying to get as many of them into the market as possible. Like Jim Farley wants 600,000 in the next year or so, like from Ford. I think that you also have to be speaking directly to local talent about the cars, giving people an opportunity to get more educated on them, especially from the fixed operation side of the business.
Oh, definitely. And it's almost that the technician position is probably the most secure in the coming years.
Yeah, right.
I'd be more worried as a sales representative with the manufacturers more strongly pushing for a direct-to-consumer sales model. Everybody's going to need technicians. That's not something that's going away. Is it going to evolve and is it going to change? Of course.
But well, listen. To Sandy's point before, the average age of a vehicle right now on the road is about 13 years, Sandy. And the car park, and times that by the amount of cars sold per year. We're going to have regular internal combustion engines for as long as we're alive, guys and gals. So I don't think that that's going away anytime soon. And I think that there will be like a niche kind of market of people, I'll be in it, that still want an ICE vehicle, see them as actually an investment as EVs continue to take the market over. And there's going to be the younger generations that are going to be intrigued by it. Like, think about, like, if you go to a car store right now and you see an old school carbureted Chevelle with a 454 in it, to me, I'm like, wow, like, you used to have to adjust the air to fuel, for the motor. Like, it was awesome, and they're going to feel the same way about the ICE vehicles of today.
Well, most of the kids today are on low carbohydrate diets, as we all know. All kidding aside, Sean Reyes came back. He said, because we're in the industry, we know what the truth is. And the issue is that the message is not reaching younger kids, and they're worried about where it's headed. It's volatile, and that creates anxiety for kids trying to make the right call about their future. And Sean, boy, do you speak to a bigger issue. We put all the onus a lot of times on the dealerships. And the truth of the matter is that the OEMs, and this is where, if everybody could just shelve the ego and stop thinking about what's in it for them, and understand that the bigger picture is, how do dealers, OEMs, trade schools get together and figure this thing out once and for all to get the messaging right. The problem that we have, as you guys know, is that you're not always dealing with honest brokers. Okay. And so it's going to take a team. It's going to take an OEM or two or three that has genuine desire to partner with their dealers. Hi, Toyota. Okay. It definitely ain't Ford these days. I can tell you that, with Mr. Farley's comments recently. But, you need a couple of OEMs, you need a couple of dealers, and you need some of the trade schools coming to the party, and people like Scott Trainer over at USA Motor Jobs, SCA 365, the folks that are boots on the ground, service directors and service managers, and also current technicians. Everybody should have a voice. Whether it's equal or not is to be debated, but everybody should have a voice and some input on how we solve this issue. What we have are all these disparate conversations going on that creates mixed messaging and a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding, to Sean's point, which ultimately ends up in the form of anxiety for these young kids, or it dissuades them from coming into the industry in the first place. And so it's time, if it's ever going to be the time, it's now, for us to start speaking with a unified voice and unified message into the marketplace.
Yeah, just a great point, Sandy. Got
more. No, nail on the head.
Can I drop the mic there?
Yeah, you really can't. You really can't, Sandy, because you're so on point for that exact reason. Speaking to what Sean was saying about what's the worry for the younger generation out there, and there is anxiety about what the future holds. The world is in a chaotic place as a whole. So if you're not having a very clear, concise message about what the culture is like in your organization, dealership, business, I don't care, automotive or not, we are speaking automotive right now, and making people feel like, you could be part of something bigger than yourself, allowing them to have a voice, and being part of that bigger picture is going to drive people towards your business. And just like I said before, Sean, I mentioned that 75% of technicians will refer other technicians to their shop if they feel it's good culturally and they're getting what they want out of it. So, I would suggest any of the younger generation, especially right now, if you're in your, late teens, 20s, go and have conversations with the people that are currently in it. Go into the groups on Facebook, go talk to some business leaders. I guarantee you, as long as you're confident enough to do it, which is part of the problem, right? But I digress there. I go speak to people, go have a conversation, even if it's not in person, and you just message somebody to get their opinion, and kind of get an idea of what's going on. So, but that's just another way.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, fellas, listen, we're coming up on the top of the hour, so I want to make sure that we're efficient with our time. Let's from a little bit of a selfish perspective, talk a little bit about our strategic partnership and really what brought us together in the first place. Scott, was exactly what we've been talking about here. You'd reached out to me after that LinkedIn article, and we had just this incredibly productive conversation, the first phone call that we ever had. And it led us to where we are today, working together to provide dealers and also candidates for employment a solution that makes sense so that we can put people together. A lot of times we suffer from lack in the marketplace. And when I mean that, what I mean by that is, as a dealer, you either lack the time, you lack maybe the personnel or the staff to execute an effective marketing campaign, an effective recruiting campaign, or you lack the messaging and some of the resources that is going to actually cut through all the noise that's out there today. And you guys provide a really incredible I would say, ecosystem at usamotorjobs.com
Sure.
that takes great pains to make sure you're matching the right candidate with the right culture in terms of a dealership. And we're doing that in a way that's never been done before, and we're doing it together. And so I appreciate the partnership with you guys. Anything to
Ditto,
add?
Scott.
Oh no, definitely. It was great. As you said, as our first call, I knew when I saw that LinkedIn article that you published, I had to reach out, and then we've hit it off ever since. We have the same goals. We share the same values and what we think the industry should be. We're both out boots on the ground. We're not just sitting back, hoping for the best for the industry, just like you mentioned. We're both working with the same schools.
Right.
We're out there talking with the kids. We're out there at the trade shows. We're really trying to do what's best for the industry and make a difference as a whole. Give our suggestions where we can to the stores and really help them grow. It's all about transparency. It's a marriage that we want them to both have, and we want it to be successful and a lifelong one as well. So I know you and I are working out different strategies and different ways to make this happen, but it's been great.
Yeah, I would agree, buddy. It's a marriage made in
Likewise.
heaven, you know, and because there's congruency in terms of commitment to making sure we elevate this amazing industry. I've been afforded so many incredible opportunities to meet, you know, exceptional people, to make an exceptional income, to just all these things that happen as a result of this industry. The focus is always to try and elevate it and to make it better, and that's the goal here. And this is probably the single most important topic that we're going to address over the course of the next 10 to 15 years with respect to technicians and technician shortages. We've got to do a better job in getting the message out there. We've got to be more consistent in terms of recruiting the right kind of people into our business. We've got to compete. All right. We've got to compete with outside interests, right? Non-automotive interests. It's not the other dealerships. It's the HVAC
Correct.
company. It's the air conditioning company. It's the plumber. You know, it's the construction company. It's all these other places that are competing for the talent. Big tech is competing for these kids right now.
Yes.
We've got to give them something they can sink their teeth into. And I think Sean Ray has made a great point, you know, leading us down this path. If people want more information, look, go to sandycerami.com. We've got a lot of free resources over there right now. As a matter of fact, you can go down there at sandycerami.com and get your free PDF, the 7 Deadly Recruiting Sins You Need to Know Now. You can also see a series of videos that we co-produced with Scott's team over at usamotorjobs.com regarding the 7 deadly recruiting sins that you need to know right now. But there are things that you may be doing or not doing that you don't even realize are actually inhibiting your ability to attract top talent to your dealership right now. And so we share that information with you. We've got a job seekers page that we encourage anybody that's out there right now that's looking for an employment opportunity, go to our job seekers page at sandycerami.com and check it out. You'll see some of the positions we've currently got there right now. You can link right through to usamotorjobs.com and get your profile up there. But guys, I want to thank you for spending the time. It's been a great hour. I hope we've shared some content that's of value to the audience. And I look forward to doing it again in the next couple of months. We'll come back and talk about what's relevant and happening right around October as we head into midterm elections. Let's hope the world is not on fire.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least let's hope we're putting the flames out, for God's sakes, once and for all. I want to give a shout out to my man, Michael Poro. He is the
What's up, Mike?
and dealer principal out at Louisville Honda World, a client of ours.
Love you, man.
He will be, by the way, and Scott, I'm going to continue to work on you, buddy. My man, Michael Poro, we were texting back and forth last night, late last night, about Business Bourbon and Cigars #4 coming up September 13th through the 15th in Louisville, Kentucky. There's more info at businessbourboncigarsfordealers.com. Now, truth be told, we are sold out at this point. You can go in there and fill out a registration and get on the wait list in case somebody ends up not being able to make it. Scott, I'm going to keep working on you. I told you I'd hold a spot for you, but I'm going to keep working on you because it's the single best event in automotive. There's nothing like it. It's a true mastermind event. My buddy SJ 24/7, Scott Joseph, CEO of J&L Marketing. As a matter of fact, if you want a great alternative and you're not working with J&L Digital Marketing out of Louisville, Kentucky, go check him out at jnlmarketing.com right now. As a matter of fact, I'm sporting my Move Crush Count t-shirt for his podcast.
Yeah, buddy.
I want to shoot you over to his podcast, Move Crush Count, as well. But look, guys, I'm looking forward to what the balance of the year has to show us, and
Yes.
let's just keep doing what we're doing, and doing everything we can to advance the cause of retail automotive.
Amen to that. Sandy, Scott, pleasure always. Love y'all.
All right, guys, let's step up and stand out, and we are out.
Ciao, everybody.